All right. So this is Japanese raids in the Indian Ocean. Pacific War number 19, but it's actually number 26. So, yeah, in that one video I found Doolittle's raid there, so I'm kind of excited for it. So, let's go ahead and jump into this. Enlarge that. Oh, I hate when it does that. No, that's not. There you go.
In the last couple of weeks, we've been covering some special topics.
No.
We've been covering some special topics about the Pacific War, since there wasn't much happening during this time. But today we come back for the main series with an episode looking forwards towards the Indian Ocean. After the fall of the Dutch East Indies, Malaya, Singapore, Manila and Rangoon, the Japanese Empire had achieved all of its initial objectives for the start of the war. Now they seek to probe the strength of the Allies outside of the Pacific with a deadly raid aimed towards the island of Ceylon and the coast of India. Brace yourselves as we plunge into the Indian Ocean raid and other Japanese offensives in the waters south of the Indian subcontinent. Your continued support allows us to expand our work, and we are so grateful for that. We are always eager to create more videos for you, and we think that you will enjoy our documentaries on post-World War II history over on the Cold War channel, and our Wizards and Warriors channel that focuses on... This episode first takes us back to the general situation in Burma, where the Japanese invaders were clashing with Chinese and British defenders along the Burma Road. On March 19th, landing operations were commenced for the arrival of the 56th and 18th Divisions at Rangoon, hoping to reinforce General Ida's 15th Army in its conquest of Burma. The operation would be conducted using 134 transports in 4 subsequent convoys, supported by the main strength of Admiral Ozawa's fleet in the waters south of Burma, with the first convoy arriving at Rangoon on March 24th and the last one arriving at the port on April 28th. Along with the Japanese troops were also transported large quantities of ammunition and materiel, which would prove to be of tremendous assistance for the Burma operation. Meanwhile, it was planned to further support this operation with a naval invasion of the Andaman Islands, to be carried out by the Hiyashi Unit and a detachment of Navy units under the command of Captain Kawasaki Harumi. The invaders departed Penang Island on March 20th, escorted by the 3rd Squadron of Rear Admiral Hashimoto Shintaro and heading towards Port Blair, the main British base on the Andaman Islands. There, the defenders had placed a Gurkha detachment of the 16th Indian Brigade, but it got recalled after the fall of Rangoon and when the British realised Port Blair was impossible to defend, so there was only a small 300 men strong Sikh militia there. On March 23rd, Kawasaki achieved a surprise landing at Port Blair, Ross Island and the western coast of Snake Island. Immediately the Port Blair garrison surrendered after destroying the base's facility.
Snake Island, is that the island that I'm thinking of? That's the island that you're not supposed to go to? Can't be the same island. Because why would you want to go there? There's no strategic value there, unless you're going to throw snakes at the opponent. It can't be the right one. It's got to be something different. By the way, since I'm here, were there any rules for, and there's no value for it, but would there have been any rules against going after that, the name just popped into my head, that island that has the tribe that people don't go to, like the last couple people that have went to, they've killed them. Kris. Sentinelese Island? Has nothing to do with the video. We were in the area, India area. I think the Snake Island is actually Madagascar. What did I say? It's closer to South Africa? Or I don't know.
facilities, and these locations were then occupied. With their main objective completed, orders were issued to mop up the remaining enemy presence on the island. On March 24th, the Hayashi unit was sent to Havelock Island, but they found no trace of enemy presence, so the Japanese left the island alone. Other units were also sent to Port Cornwallis, Stewart Sound, and the Elphinstone and Colebrook Islands, completing the mopping up of these locations by March 27th and successfully placing the Andaman Islands under firm Japanese control. The subsequent Japanese occupation would be accompanied by many war crimes and atrocities, including the arrest and torture in the cellular jail of more than 900 people. In the meantime, after the successful bombing of Darwin and the effective role of the Kidubutai south of Java, Admiral Yamamoto had been planning to conduct a surprise attack operation on the island of Ceylon since February 14th, aiming to cause long-term damage to the island's facilities, to harm the relationship between Britain and India, and to destroy the British fleet at Ceylon. Furthermore, Ozawa was also planning to conduct a raid over the Bay of Bengal with the objective of threatening the Allied supply route from the Indian Ocean to Calcutta, while also dissuading the British from counterattacking against the Andaman Islands. Thus, Operation C was scheduled to start on April 1st, with the inclusion of the 5th Carrier Division back into the Kidubutai. Yet as we've previously covered, March would also see air raids over Minami Torishima and Wake Island, and that would leave Tokyo concerned about the security of the home islands, so the operation was postponed until April 5th. In the meantime, Admiral Takahashi had also planned to conduct an invasion of Christmas Island, aiming to secure its valuable rock phosphate resources. A small fleet under Rear Admiral Hara Kenzaburo was appointed to carry out Operation X, mainly consisting of 3 light cruisers and 2 destroyers. They were to transport a Navy unit of around 850 men to land on Christmas Island and secure its phosphate facilities. On the other side, the British had placed Vice Admiral James Somerville in charge of the Eastern Fleet, who counted with 3 aircraft carriers, 5 battleships, 7 cruisers, 16 destroyers, and 7 submarines at the naval base of Trincomalee, a sizable force considering the commitment of the Royal Navy to the Atlantic and Mediterranean theatres. This port was inadequate, vulnerable, and easy to spy for the Japanese, so Somerset immediately decided to move to Port T, an isolated and secret island base on the Adu Atoll. The Admiral also divided his fleet into 2 groups, with the faster Force A built around the carriers Formidable and Indomitable, as well as the modernized flagship battleship Warspite, with a slower Force B formed by the old carrier Hermes and 4 unmodernized Revenge-class battleships as its core. On paper, the Eastern Fleet was very sizable, but as we can see, the vessels in Force B were vastly outdated, with ship and air crews deficient in training, so the British were concerned about their real strength in the Indian Ocean. After the collapse of Abdicom, the Allies had also agreed on a new division of strategic responsibility, with the US assuming the command of the whole Pacific theatre, and the UK assuming the control of operations in the Indian Ocean and the Middle East, so the British were not expecting to receive any reinforcements from the Americans. Furthermore, British codebreakers had success.
Have you considered going solar?
You know what I have, bud? I actually currently am solar. Paid my I'm going to take a picture. Well, I put it up on a short so everyone can see the panels on the roof. I have 54. First bill was June 9th. 4 days ago.
Furthermore, British codebreakers had successfully gathered intelligence on the planned Japanese air raid, causing Somerville to be alert for an incoming attack. But the British intelligence was in fact old, and still had April 1st as the day for the launch of Operation C, also including an inaccurate assessment of the strength of the Japanese force. So Somerville was expecting to fight a smaller force on the incorrect date. For the defense of Ceylon, the RAF further reinforced the island with 136 aircraft to counter the expected carrier-borne air attack. And on Christmas Island, there was a small garrison of 32 Indian troops under Captain Williams, whose main defense was a 6-inch gun that was mounted on the beach. Back on March 11th, a group of Punjabi soldiers had actually mutinied against British rule, killing Williams and imprisoning most of the European inhabitants. Allegedly, they were incensed to do so thanks to Japanese propaganda concerning the liberation of India, but were not aware of the incoming invasion that was going to take place. On March 26th, the same day that Somerville arrived at Ceylon, Operation C was put into motion, and the strong carrier task force of Admiral Nagumo departed Staring Bay towards the Indian Ocean. 3 days later, the Christmas Island invasion force sailed from Bantam Bay without encountering any enemy and reached a point north of the Flying Fish Cove anchorage by early morning on March 31st. The invaders immediately detected the presence of an American submarine, so they launched their aircraft to attack the enemy battery and support the assault on the Seawolf. Unfortunately for them, the submarine managed to escape, but at least the invaders were received with white flags from the Indian mutineers. Japanese forces...
Maybe someone can explain this to me. How do you... I mean, is this... the only thing I can think of is the submarines out of the water. But how do you spot it? I mean, okay. Let me rephrase asking that because it sounds stupid. If it's out of the water, you know, the hatch, it's kind of at the top, the hatch is up, and the people are on there playing volleyball or whatever you do on a sub. I have no idea when it's, you know, at top. But when it dives, I hear a lot about sending planes out, and then planes will drop like little depth charges. I've also heard it comes from boats. I hear it more from boats, but how are they able to track it from the plane? Is the plane still able to track it with like a sonar, or are they just guessing, and so they're just dropping depth charges all over the place and the sub just... How does that work? Anyone know? I have no idea. I need someone who knows something to tell me this, because I don't know anything.
Were then allowed to land, quickly seizing the island, its battery, and its phosphate facilities. Funny enough, it seems the mutineers were planning to execute the Chinese and Malay inhabitants, and the Japanese got there just in time to save them, although this was to put them to work for them instead. Around 0950, however, the Seawolf returned and fired 4 torpedoes against the cruiser Naka. All of these shots missed, and the submarine got to escape again, although the Japanese thought they had sunk her with depth charges. But on the following morning, the Seawolf returned, and this time shot 3 torpedoes against the cruiser Notori, failing to hit her as well. In the evening, the submarine emerged for a final time and shot her last 2 torpedoes against the Nara, this time hitting her and causing enough damage to force her to return to Japan for repairs. As before, the Seawolf managed to escape for good, although the Japanese fleet would depth charge the US submarine for over 9 hours. Meanwhile, Somerville sailed on March 30th and deployed his fleet to patrol in an area 160 kilometers south of Ceylon, where the Japanese were expected to approach. Due to his bad intelligence, he had his forces on full alert, but his patrols had so far sighted nothing. During the next 2 days, Somerville swept east by night and west by day, still awaiting reports from the reconnaissance aircraft, yet there was no clue of the Japanese fleet. In the meantime, Ozawa's strike force also departed Magui on April 1st, heading towards the Bay of Bengal. On the evening of April 2nd, Somerville finally decided to return to Port T with his fleet to refuel, with no sign of a Japanese carrier-borne attack on the horizon. The cruisers Cornwall and Dorsetshire were sent to Colombo, however, and the carrier Hermes was sent with the destroyer Vampire to Trincomalee to prepare for an attack on Madagascar. Somerville's fleet finally arrived at the Adu Atoll on April 4th, the same day that the carrier task force was discovered by a British PBY 580 kilometers southeast of Ceylon. In response, Nagumo rapidly launched 18 fighters that shot down the PBY, but not before the British were alerted of the incoming attack by a pilot who reported the sighting, but not the size of the fleet. The report came at an unlucky moment for Somerville, who had to leave behind Force B and advance as fast as possible with Force A, still thinking that he was going to face a manageable force. Commander-in-Chief of Ceylon, Geoffrey Layton, also brought back the island's defences to full alert and prepared to face the brunt of the carrier-borne assault. He also sent Dorsetshire and Cornwall south to meet with Somerville, and the Hermes northeast to escape with the other ships at the Trincomalee harbour. At dawn on April 5th, Easter Sunday, Nagumo launched his reconnaissance planes to scout to the west of his position, only finding an enemy PBY, which was immediately taken down. Shortly after 0600, the Japanese admiral finally sent 36 A6M Type 0 fighters, 53 B-5N torpedo bombers, and 38 D-3A Type 99 bombers, which rapidly got to the air over Colombo. At 10:45, Commander Fuchida sent the order to commence the attack, and a fierce battle immediately broke out between the Japanese fighters and the 36 Hurricanes and 6 Fulmars that came to meet them. After 30 minutes of engagement, 16 Hurricanes and 4 Fulmars had been brought down, to the loss of only 7 Japanese planes, with a further 6 Swordfishes getting shot down after arriving from Trincomalee. Meanwhile, the Japanese bombers dropped.
They've got some names,
filler
don't
and
they?
marketing hype don't improve supplement.
I swear I heard, there was Swordfish, and I swear I heard there was a Vampire was also listed as one of the ships.
While the Japanese bombers dropped their deadly load into the Ratmalana airbase, tankers, merchantmen, and other targets, but would only sink 3 vessels and cause some minor damage thanks to Layton's preparations. By 1325, the Japanese planes had returned to their carriers, but Nagumo's reconnaissance planes had also discovered Dorsetshire and Cornwall fleeing towards the southwest. So the Admiral suspended a second assault over Colombo to instead attack the 2 British cruisers. In the afternoon, 18 fighters and 54 bombers skillfully fell upon the Dorsetshire and the Cornwall, and carried out a surprise bombing over them. Both cruisers quickly received many hits, and then sank in a few minutes, with the British losing some 424 sailors, but later rescuing a total of 1,122 lives.
Wow.
Once again, Nagumo's carrier aircraft had shown how deadly they were, with Churchill later writing that nothing like this had been seen in the Mediterranean in all their conflicts with the German and Italian air forces. Cautious, the Japanese admiral now judged that in view of the movement of the British cruisers, enemy aircraft must be deployed in the area, so he decided to pull back in a southeastern direction to then sail north and assault the port of Trincomalee, while his reconnaissance planes searched for the bulk of the Eastern Fleet. In the meantime, Somerville feared that the invaders would attack Port T next, so he returned back to the Adu Atoll on April 6th after unsuccessfully looking for the enemy force. And with the Easter Sunday raid concluded, Ozawa then decided to commence his operations at the Bay of Bengal, with planes from the Ryujo conducting reconnaissance over the area. The subsequent airborne attacks only got to sink 2 merchant vessels, so Ozawa recognized the necessity of getting closer to the shore. By April 6th, he finally divided his forces into 3 units, launching several air attacks against the shipping in the Bay of Bengal. Ozawa's raid was tremendously successful, sinking 21 vessels with an approximate tonnage of 137,000 tons, and causing severe damage on other ships and facilities without a single loss. On April 7th, the 3 units rendezvoused and then started their way back to the Andaman Islands, reaching the 10-degree channel the following day and getting to Singapore by April 11th. On April 8th, after finding no trace of the Eastern Fleet, Nagumo prepared to attack Trincomalee. Just as with his previous attack on Colombo, his force was discovered by a PBY and the British were alerted. At dawn on the next...
A PPY or PBY? Is that just like a reconnaissance plane, like a British spy plane, reconnaissance plane, whatever you want to call it? That's what I'm guessing. And I tell you what, I can't say his name. Nagumo. I don't know if he's good or if he just has overwhelming force. But he seems to be pretty good.
Next day, the attack commenced with the liftoff of 91 bombers and 38 Zeros, and the order of Commander Fujita to start the assault at 10:20. The bombers immediately rained fire upon the port, while the Zeros engaged with 17 Hurricanes and 6 Fulmars. In result, the ships in the harbour suffered serious damage, along with other facilities in the port, and the British also suffered the loss of 10 aircraft, while they could only shoot down 3 Zeros. Furthermore, while the carrier Hermes was 105 kilometers away, 9 Blenheims were launched from Colombo to counterattack against the Japanese. Catching the invaders by surprise, the bombers unloaded their bombs over the Akagi, but they missed their target and were then engaged by the patrolling Zeros. In the ensuing struggle, the Japanese fighters shot down 5 of the bombers, while also losing 1 themselves. But Nagamo had now discovered the position of the Hermes, and so he sent 85 D-3A bombers and 9 Zeros to destroy the British carrier. Before noon, the Japanese had carried out their dive bombings, and the Hermes was sunk, along with its escort, the Vampire. Without a break, the bombers then attacked nearby ships, and 4 more vessels were sunk, to the loss of only 4 bombers and a Zero. With this attack on Trincomalee over, Nagamo then turned to the east, getting to the Makassar Strait by April 13th. Thus the Indian Ocean raid was over. It left the British feeling insecure, with Somerville sending Force B to East Africa, since he thought those older vessels didn't stand a chance against the superior Japanese firepower. But the Japanese didn't achieve their objective of destroying the Eastern Fleet either, and with their focus back on the Pacific, they would not exploit their victory in the Indian Ocean. Next week, however, we turn back to the Philippines, where the assault on Bataan resumes, and Homa finally proves his worth. So make sure you are subscribed and have pressed.
You know, Japan may not have finished what it was that they were trying to accomplish, but I don't think they lost. The only reason why they didn't finish it was because they just moved on. But I think that the British took a pounding. But I think, and this is just me, I think that if Japan would have tried one more time, I think they could have broken through. But it's easy for me to say that because it's 80 plus years. But I have no, I'm just throwing it out there. I could be completely wrong. My military strategy has been proven to be terrible. You should never listen to me and go into battle with me. I've proven that. Every single one of you would be dead. I would be talking to no one. So there's that. Okay. Well, I'm going to end this here. And I'm going to say it again. And I understand, Panda pointed it out. Japan had a window after they attacked Pearl Harbor. They had a window to just hit, and take everything they could. Take these islands, take security, before the U.S. was able to build back up. And they knew that. But it does not diminish just how fast they move and how hard they hit. It's just, I don't want to say this, but it's almost like a blitzkrieg in a way. You know what I mean? To where they attack, but they kind of overwhelm you, and then that's why everyone's retreating. And I'm not bagging on the people who retreat. I would be in the same situation. I would be like, okay, we got to pull back. We're gonna lose too many people here unnecessarily. We have to pull back. It's just amazing. I got a question. So there was a job I did, and the guy was he was a veteran of Vietnam, and he had I love presidents. If you've seen any of my history videos and stuff like that, like my ultimate goal, my love, would be to travel to every, a presidential home that they lived in, tour it, visit a grave, film all of it, and put those videos up. That's what my whole goal was for the channel. Reaction videos are great, and I enjoy it. It's fun. I learn stuff. But I would like to put my own content out eventually. That's just, the direction I want to go in. So we were talking about my love of history. Okay, everything else stupid. Sorry. And he said that he went to Pearl Harbor, and he said it's I've never been there, but he said you walk out on that whatever it is, and you can look down at the shipwreckage. And he said he was out there with him and his wife, and I want to say like his son and daughter, and like their kids, his grandkids and stuff like that. It was like 7 or 8 people. He said, and then we had a couple people from Brazil, I think, and then like 15 people from Japan who were there. And he lost his mind. He didn't say anything to them, but he was so pissed that they were there. How dare they show up and do that? How dare they? And I was like, I think they're just showing their respect. It's not meant to be like negative. It's, I could understand. Let's say somebody from Osama bin Laden's family showed up in New York, where the Twin Towers were, and they started pointing and going, huh? They're not here anymore, are they? My family did that. Yeah, that would annoy me. But if you just show up, and you're kind of respecting the presence of what it is and what you're looking at, and you understand it, I don't think that it's not a negative thing. I think they were just there showing their respect. And it is something that, yes, their country did. At the same time, you could say then that they would be mad that an American would be in Japan because, if we went to Nagasaki or Hiroshima, can you imagine if they were like, you did this to us, get out of here? No, they wouldn't. They could, just like we could be mad at Pearl Harbor, but like, does anybody else, would that bother you? Because to me, it doesn't. To me, it's just a sign of respect. It's, Truman went to Mexico and laid a wreath at some tower. It wasn't a tower. What was it? It was a place during the Mexican-American War, and it got caught on fire, and it was a bunch of young 14, 15-year-old kids that were going to be in the military, and a bunch of them died. And Truman laid a wreath there at that building, and said that this shouldn't have happened. Not the war, maybe, but like this shouldn't have happened. These kids shouldn't have died. Mexico was just kind of like, thank you. And it eased tension between the countries. And I think if Japanese people were to show up there as a prime minister or whatever, I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's just ultimately a sign of respect. As long as they're not going, yeah, too bad we didn't take out more. Okay, that's a little different. But anyways, just does anyone else, think of something related to you or your country or whatever, and then, would you be upset if somebody just showed up from that country? Like, you can't hold it against them. They didn't do it. So I'm just curious how other people think on that. So now I'm going to end this. Like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Have a good day. Have a good night.